What have you learned through writing your books?
Oh my gosh. I think the first thing I learned was how to use the English language. I mean, I haven't used it since college, and being a 48-year-old person starting to write, and now in my 50s, I had a lot of grammar to polish up on.
Who is your all-time favorite author, and what is it that really strikes you about their work?
It would have to be Robert Jordan, who's now deceased. He had a way of articulating every part of a scene. So when you were looking at a character or looking at maybe a room, you could really you could get an idea of exactly what it looked like. It was really phenomenal for a reader to experience.
Do you hear from your readers much? What kinds of things do they say?
Oh my gosh. Some of them do a little bit better editing. Some of them are my highest critics, but a lot of them are really encouraging. A lot of them will say, you know, one in particular said something about, it was like, reading my books was like going back to biology class, because I do insert a lot of science into it, but I want to make my books real. I want to be able to have current research, current science in the book itself.
How much of Hank is based on you, or your fantasy version of yourself?
Hank, in a way, is me, if I was a scientist. He actually is based on me, and his wife, Melissa, is my wife, April. I actually based my wife off of two characters, though. So as you watch Amber grow, Amber actually grows into my wife. But I do like a strong woman character.
Are the other characters based on current or past friends of yours?
Yeah, some of them are current friends, some are past. In the fourth and last book in the series, you're going to run into a character named Ned. And Ned actually is a friend of mine from a long time ago. The current character, Scott, is my best friend, Scott Lee.
What is coming up in the future, like new books, what genres, and how far will you take Hank's story?
The fourth book will be the end of the zombie apocalypse. In fact, I planned it out as 3, and it just I couldn't end the story with 3. It had to go to a 4th book. I currently have 2 other books half written. One is a fantasy book, which involves a necromancer, so it's kind of in the same venue. But the other one, I have a science fiction book, and I'm starting to lean a little bit towards science fiction.
How can a person be a teacher, author, and artist at the same time, plus keeping up with composing Ward's Laws?
Well, first of all, Ward's Laws are just jokes I post. I have the first book free on online, and I didn't know what to write when I got onto Facebook. So I started writing, like, you know, the typical things. What you do when, you know, like, you're doing things around the house. I ate a sandwich, I, you know, went to the bathroom, and I just couldn't keep writing just general stuff. So I just started writing jokes and called them Ward's Laws. So they don't take a lot of time. I'll be driving down the road and I'll think of a Ward's Law, and I'll either talk about it into my phone, or I'll pull off the road and email myself, you know, just a snippet of what I'm thinking so that I can write it later. But the other things, like being an artist and being everything else with writing, you know, I'm one of those people who has a lot of energy. I like to be doing something all the time.
And on the subject of art and doing, you know, that sort of thing, are you going to draw and paint the characters from the book so we can see them through your eyes?
I did that a little bit with Photoshop for the covers. I thought about doing paintings for it and changing that up, but it really isn't the same type of things that I paint typically.
Do you enjoy painting or writing more, or are they equally as fulfilling and frustrating?
You know, painting and writing are equally frustrating and equally fun to do. I think they both fulfill the creative need that I have as an artist. The only thing that's different is when you paint, it's a longer term thing. I can write for 20 minutes or an hour block of time, and I can be done and move on. But when you paint, you need large spans of time, 6, 8, 12 hours. And that's just kind of the way I work it. But as far as creative need and creative like fulfillment, they actually fulfill a little bit of a different way. I do like the visual parts of like painting, but a painting doesn't move. And when you're writing, you have to create movement and you have to have things happening. There's literally times when I'm writing that I start laughing, or I'm just sitting there grinning and my heart's racing, and so it is a little bit different, but they both fulfill that creative need.
If your writing career were to take off like Tufo's did, would you be able to leave teaching to write full-time? Is that a choice you would make?
I really like teaching. For those of you who don't know, I'm a high school art teacher who specializes in Photoshop. I don't know, I like, you guys are the social part of my life, you know, so I really like talking to you guys, hearing about your lives, you know, kind of experiencing what you're doing. But at the same point, if I had the time to myself, I could do a lot more. So that would be tough. If it took off, it would be a tough call.
Do you ever ask your students for input or ideas for your books, or is it a guarded process?
I have a lot of discussions in my classroom about zombies and all kinds of stuff, and a lot of cases, like some students have helped me come up with ideas. You know, we'll be talking about, you know, a certain instance, and somebody will mention, like, what if a zombie did this? And it, you know, it's just right there. I can see the whole scene happen, and so yeah, my students definitely influence my writing.
How much does the fact that you live in Pittsburgh, practically the birthplace of zombie culture, play into your writing?
Oh my gosh, I live 20 minutes away from where they filmed Night of the Living Dead. You know, and that was the beginning of the modern zombie era. So, you know, I really think that it had a big influence on me. In fact, one of the people I talked to a lot lately, he works in the field where they make like armatured arms and stuff, so that when you cut an arm off, it'll crawl, or and they do a lot of those like types of effects. And he himself said this is the center for a lot of that, you know, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because of what Romero did.
If you could make the books a movie or a series, who would be your ideal cast and who would play what characters?
All right, I can see who would play me as Hank. That'd have to be Brad Pitt. Okay, maybe not. You can't really see the resemblance. I think I'd just be more thrilled that they're making my books into a movie, because, you know, I would be able to see what everybody else is seeing through my books. I know what I see, and I know what I'm trying to make the reader see, but it would just be so neat to see that in live action.
How would you compare writing a book to doing a painting?
You know, honestly, it is very similar, because you have to map out, you have to have a plan when you write a book. When I first started writing my first book a long time ago, I just kind of started at the beginning and started writing, and I didn't have a plan. Even with a plan, it sometimes you're going to go off the beaten path, and you're going to have these little like side stories that erupt. But with a painting, it's the same thing. You have to have a plan. You have to start with your drawing. You have to build colors, and it's an entire process. So writing is a very similar process to painting.
You've said before that you have severe dyslexia, and how does this affect your choice to write? How do you overcome the challenges to write?
I don't know exactly how severe. I mean, my dyslexia is bad, but I don't think it's severe. I don't want to quit. I want to prove to my English teachers in school that I can do this, but I also, you know, I want to do this. So I think I'm overcoming it out of desire to want to tell a story.
How did you decide to write horror, and why zombies?
I just kind of like the zombie culture. It's a weird answer. A friend of mine, for my birthday a couple years ago, he sent me a zombie book. Now before this, all I read were science, history books, things that are kind of dry. And I looked at a zombie book and I thought, oh man, a zombie book. Well, about a month later, he sent me an email and he asked me what I thought of the book, and I thought, oh my gosh, I better start reading this. I read that book in 2 days, and then I read 7 more, and then I called him back and said, like, you started me on an addiction. They're just so fun. And so when I decided to start writing and I ran into Mark Defoe's contest, that was right up my alley. I wanted to write about zombies.
All right, well, thank you very much. And is there anything else you'd like to add for the viewers?
No, just give my books a try. I think you'll like them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.